Welcome back to another episode of Be Our Guest here on Musical Theater Radio. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Yovanov. If you like YouTube and musical theater and theater history, have I got a site for you. Today, we are speaking with the creator of the YouTube channel Broadway by Ghostlight. Let's get to know him and his channel. Let's welcome to the show, Marc Bonanni. Marc, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, Jean-Paul? I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I found your website, your YouTube channel, and I was like, I got to talk to this guy. Because it was
Somebody
fun.
wants to talk to me. I've been just editing in my little hole by myself,
Yep.
It's nice to come out and see the sun and talk to somebody.
That's the problem when you're doing something like YouTube, right? It's a lot of just you in front of your computer.
A lot of listening to yourself talk over and over again. You have to get over. That was hard in the beginning, was listening to myself talk. I'm not one of those people that enjoyed listening to themselves, and you have to get over that real quick.
Nice. Well, I always like to find out about the person I'm going to talk to, because I know a little bit about you because I've had to do research, but our listeners might not know you at all. So I'd like to get the 30-second bio. So who is Marc in 30 seconds?
30 seconds. So I grew up in Southern California, but I think because of the Muppets Take Manhattan, I'd always wanted to move to New York and be in theater. That's the only reason I can think of, because nobody in my family was theater related. They're all race car drivers. And for some reason I wanted to be in theater and moved to New York from Southern California. It's gotta be Muppets Take Manhattan. So I moved there for school. I went to AMDA, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy, to be a performer. And then fell in love with the history side of things and started working merchandise on Broadway. The first show I worked was History Boys and Spamalot, and then worked my way up until I was the senior manager. So I worked and managed about over 70 Broadway and off-Broadway shows, doing merchandise. And then I toured for 3.5 years doing merchandise with my wife. So that was a lot of fun. And then, now we live in Brooklyn, and I have this little history channel, and I have 2 daughters and a beautiful wife who normally works on Broadway. Her show is not reopening, so she's out of a job for right now, but she normally works on Broadway as a dresser.
Nice.
And that's all I can think of.
Very cool.
Me.
So growing up, you said NASCAR in the family, and so you were the black sheep, and
yeah, they were all very supportive.
Yeah.
But yeah, there wasn't really any. There was not a lot of arts in my family, but it was, I did a play in 4th grade. I was handed like a script. It was a little play we were doing about the gold rush, and I picked what part I wanted. I memorized it that day. And I really got into it. And then my grandfather and grandmother had a subscription to the Orange County Performing Arts Center, which is the local, touring place. And they got me a ticket to see Marie Osmond in The Sound of Music. I was very young. It wasn't even seeing the show. It was getting the ticket. It was like the only thing I could think of when priests talk about a calling. Mm-hmm. It was just like, it felt like destiny. I didn't know what it was or why I loved it, but I already was hooked. Just getting the ticket, I found my place. So I've been hooked ever since.
Nice. So when you were growing up in high school, did you always wanted to get into theater, or was there another occupation that kind of went,
No, I was theater 100%, 130%. I did community theater. It was like a children's / community theater. I was very active there, and then did shows all through middle school and high school.
So you went after high school. You said you went to AMDA, correct?
Yep.
So what made you choose there? What made you choose to fly all the way across the other side of the country?
I was always going to move to New York.
Okay. That
was my dream. And AMDA, it was. Academics and me never really got along, so it's a 2-year conservatory program, so I didn't have to get like a general education, so that was appealing. And just sort of get in there and see if performing was for me. And performing was for me, but the audition process and all that other stuff was not for me.
Okay.
And if you can't take that stuff, get out. And so I did.
All right. So you went to school, you were an actor, You were a performer. So
Mhm.
what made you get to the other side, the market, the merchandising, and that sort of thing?
Oh, well, right after school, I worked at a cafe, and I wanted to work in the theater at some capacity. I just wanted to be in the room. And so I went to Spamalot. It was at the Schubert Theater, and they had a little booth outside in the lobby that was open during the whole show.
Mhm.
And so I just asked the person there, how do you get a job in merchandise? And they said, "We'll come back tomorrow and meet the manager."
Okay.
So I did, and he said, "Can you work matinees?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Can you work Saturdays?" I said, "Yes." He said, "You're hired."
Oh, nice.
It was very easy to get into.
So availability was the
Really
key.
saved the day at that point, because Spamalot was a big show. They had lots of what they're called satellite shows, which are little plays that uh, a manager will manage from like a big show, Spamalot, and then we just send people to go work. They call those satellite shows. So
Okay.
yeah, and they told me, you will not. This will not be a full-time job. You will not pay your rent doing. And I said, challenge accepted. So, there's 8 shows a week on Broadway. So you
Yeah.
think 8 shifts, but I ended up working 14 shifts a week. I would do split shows where, if a Sunday show was at 2 and then on a 3 o'clock show, I would go and,
Yeah.
I made up delivery shifts. Anyway, I loved my time at Max Merchandise.
What was it like standing there and selling? Is it like, are you I guess lack of better term, working on commission, or does it matter how many you sell, or like how do you convince people to do all this, get
It's
stuff?
yeah, it's fun. It's a challenge. There is a bit of commission actually. There used to be for shows. It's very different. The whole industry of merchandise is very different now than when I started.
you,
But
you sound like an old timer
I
back
know,
in my
right?
day.
Back in my day, we sold programs 5 miles in the snow. Um, it's what was I talking about? I do this all the time. I forget what I'm that person who forgets
We were talking
what
about the
you.
merchandising and selling it, and you
Oh
didn't
yeah,
work
commission.
on
Yeah.
commission.
So it was more of a pride thing. I was very good. I'm a very good salesman. I worked for the Disney stores growing up. I grew up real close to Disney, so I used to work for Disney. I was the voice of Mickey Mouse for the Disney stores here in Southern California, and was always a great seller. So it was more of a pride thing, and it depends on the show. If you're working a really serious show, I mean, we did merch for the Normal Heart,
Oh yeah.
and so trying to sell T-shirts after that show, and everyone's, I mean, sobbing, and everyone's very introspective, and you're just there trying to like sell something. It's very awkward.
Yeah.
But for Spam a lot, or I did Avenue Q a lot, you can be a little more, read the room and be a little more uh, naughty. I have gotten in trouble for my sales techniques before. I almost got fired right off the bat.
Oh no.
At History Boys, it was a very, very long, brilliant play, British play, very thick accents. So I used to, before the show, we sold the scripts, and I used to hawk. I used to say, "Hey, buy the script, read ahead, go home early." And I guess some of the cast heard me before the show, and they were like, "Get this guy out of here." So they had to like come and talk to me. You know what? I sold the most scripts out of
Yeah.
anybody, so whatever.
Who's gonna actually do that? What patron's gonna
Really, that's what I'm saying. Come on
this?
now.
Oh wow.
But
Actors, they
yeah, I was,
sometimes a little thin-skinned and can't get a joke, but
and then I worked Annie for a long time, the tour of Annie, and we used to sell these stuffed dogs, and I would of course sell to the little kids. I mean, I had parents telling me I was the devil. Yeah, it was fun. Good
that's
times.
that's awesome. What is the weirdest thing that they wanted you to hawk?
The weirdest piece of merchandise. Ooh. Well, there's not a lot. The producers of the show really dictate what the merchandise is, so we don't have much control. I remember for Mamma Mia, we wanted a shirt that says "Who's your daddy,"
Mm,
but the producers wouldn't let us have that. So
yeah,
I do have the one and only prototype of that shirt
okay,
though in my collection.
that's awesome.
The weirdest piece, probably. I mean, we sold spam, like actual
Did you?
edible spam at Spamalot. We sold a lot of those. So that was in coconuts.
That's funny.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I can
Probably
believe that
that.
show's got the weirdest stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and we used to sell these really in the show. They used to give an award out to an audience member, like it was a certain seat that would get chosen to be on stage, and they was to give him this foot uh, uh, trophy thing, this foot award,
Yeah.
and so we sold them, and they were expensive. We sold them at the booth, so that was really weird because why would you want one if you didn't
Yeah.
win it anyway? The only time we really ever sold one is when it was a kid that was chosen and they had a sibling, and the sibling was upset. We usually sold one to the parents to make the other kid happy.
Now, before I get to the YouTube channel, I do want to know what's the most expensive thing? Like, I see expensive things when I go there, but what is the craziest, most expensive one that they wanted you to try and sell?
Oh man! Again, Spamalot. We had a giant. Well, we had a giant stuffed killer rabbit that technically wasn't for sale,
Mhm.
but we would get people all the time asking how much they were, and we'd say $500.
Yeah.
$500, and they would be like, okay, ha ha ha. But we had a drunk guy one night who was determined to buy the rabbit. He knew how much it was. We cleared it with our bosses at the corporate, and of course he came back. He was hammered, and of course he came back the next day and tried to return it. And sorry, no returns. So that was probably the most expensive thing I ever sold
That's funny.
in my merchandise.
So let's talk about the YouTube channel. Broadway by Ghostlight. How? Why? What made you start it?
I had been searching for sort of my venue. Is that a weird way to put it? My outlet for what I wanted to do, be a theater historian. I sort of tried it all. Of course, when you are wanting to be a theater historian, whatever that is, um, you think book writing. That's mainly what people do.
Yeah.
And I just don't enjoy writing. Writing isn't that fun for me. I think I'm pretty good at it, but it's not an enjoyable thing. So, and a lot of the books have been written by now. And excuse me. So I did that. I tried a podcast. I just did like mock versions of these things, and the podcast seemed to be good, but it just wasn't. I'm more of a visual guy, and I have been watching a lot of YouTube. My other passion is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm a big, Captain America, Iron Man, all those. The MCU is my other Bible. So I watch a lot of YouTube videos for breakdowns and conspiracy theories and Easter eggs. And I just remember thinking, God, I wish there was a Broadway channel that sort of did this kind of thing and fun. And, I liked clips and whatnot. So I decided to sort of try my hand at that. And it really seemed to be a fit for me. It was fulfilling for me and I enjoyed it. And I thought the videos turned out pretty decent. So yeah. And it's been a year now. I just had my anniversary of my channel. So
Wow. Well, congratulations on
thank you.
so
Slowly
many
but
people.
surely.
So many people
Mhm.
start these things and then after like 3 episodes, they're done. Right.
Yes, and it was hard. You'll notice if you look through mine, there's a big gap in there
Mhm.
of postings, and I definitely did. You get burned out. I was trying to do a video a week,
Wow.
which was a mistake. Not a mistake, but it just wasn't
Yeah.
doable. And so yeah, I was probably really proud of myself most for getting back into it because I'm definitely a guy who will start a million things and leave it by the wayside.
Yeah.
But I got back on the horse, and it's still every episode's a struggle. Right now, the one I'm working on now. I'm struggling. It's you get burned out, but
Yeah.
got to keep going.
Yeah, I do not envy you. Like podcast is one thing. When it's audio, editing is pretty easy. But when it's video, oh my, there's just so much more work. And I saw some of the stuff. And you add in all this other stuff and
Yes.
you got to find the clips and just
Well, that's what takes so long is finding. Yes, I have. So I do my, I call it the bones of the video where I just edit me talking.
yeah.
And that's usually pretty, I can do that in a day or two for a 20-minute video, but it's finding all the clips and the thing. Cause they're all extensions of me. Whenever I can, I try to pick a clip or a saying that I like or means something to me. So
Yeah.
and yeah, it can get very, very involved.
That's crazy. So when like you have things like Broadway Breakdown, for example, that's one of the things
Mhm.
that you do. And how do you choose the shows for Broadway Breakdown? Because I was looking at them, and you got Steel Pier, which is a pretty big show, and then you got Wildcat, a little bit small. Then you got these really weird ones like I Had a Ball and Happy Hunting. Now I have all the LPs for those, so I was like, oh, I know those. But most people are not going to know Buddy Hackett's I Had a Ball.
Right.
So what makes
Well,
you
that's
crazy?
well, that's exactly why I wanted to. I in being a quote unquote musical theater historian, you're supposed to know these shows. So I like to I hate just listening to a show.
Mhm.
I hate just getting a cast recording for a show I don't know and just listening through it. Because I mean, you get some of the story, but it's story driven songs. I need to know the story. I need to know the context. And living in New York, there's Musicals Tonight and Encores. Musicals Tonight doesn't exist anymore, sadly, but they do sort of these shows that don't get performed often.
Yeah.
And so those are great opportunities to see these shows. And then once I see the show, I feel like I can then study it and listen to different recordings and read different versions of the script and whatnot. But for shows like I Had a Ball, Wildcat, Happy Hunting, unless you're fortunate like me to have the script, which a lot of them aren't published, and I've just spent years sort of curating a collection of librettos, um, you're not really going to get to know the story. So I thought, well, at least I can sort of do a visual presentation to get the gist of the plots and snippets of the song, which always get me in trouble with copyright claims.
Yeah.
That's another story.
Yeah.
Um, and I just choose shows that I want shows that don't have a movie version.
Mhm.
I mean, mainly, so really it shows that you're not going to know the story unless you have the script. And shows just I've always been curious about. I just pick them. Sometimes I put a poll up on Facebook. I did an episode of Minnie's Boys, probably my most successful breakdown.
Huh.
I did a poll, and somebody added Minnie's Boys to the poll, and that won. And that's why I did Minnie's Boys. So, and that was probably my most popular breakdown. So you never know.
Are there are what is one of your favorite obscure weird shows that you really like that deserves a
Oh
weird?
man, Lil Abner is a show that I've grown up loving. I did it. I was Pappy Yoakum way back in my childhood acting days, and that's I don't know how obscure because there's a movie version that's very accurate. I guess that's probably pretty obscure to most people.
Yeah.
It's definitely problematic. I think it should have been revived during the Bush administration. I think it would have been absolutely perfect. It deals a lot with politics and anyway, but
Yeah.
now it's sort of not really revivable. But that's a great one. And I've fallen in love with all the shows I've broken down too. Minnie's Boys, and Happy Hunting. There's I don't know. I love all of them.
Yeah.
They feel like my children.
So you also do some other things on here like top tens and
No.
Broadway background. What makes you start something like that? Like the Broadway the one we were just talking about, that's easy. The Broadway breakdown, you know where you're going. But how do you decide when you're just going to do background? What is there something that triggers you?
Yeah, I made just a list of topics I could potentially talk about, and then just every once in a while I'll just read through the list, and hopefully something will jump out at me
Mhm.
to do. Um, yeah, I don't know. I just wait for inspiration to strike, I guess. I had written a bunch of articles um, for theaternerds.com
Mhm.
back in the day. It's a different website now, but I'd written a bunch of articles, and so like sort of when I was just starting out, I used a lot of those articles as basis for my videos, so I could, get in the groove, and I could put out more quickly if I had sort of a basis. So
Yeah.
those were sort of the earlier picks, as ones I'd already done a lot of research on, and then I just wait for inspiration, and I try new things. The top tens, I did a couple of those,
Yeah.
and those haven't been the most successful videos, so I haven't done one of those in a while. And I've tried trailer breakdowns recently, and that's done really well. So just trying things out.
Okay. What's been your favorite trailer? Because I saw you reviewed a few of them.
Yeah, I did a trailer. We did the West Side. My wife and I did the West Side Story trailer, and then the Dear Evan Hansen trailer. And I mean, Dear Evan Hansen, the trailer, that breakdown video did very, very well. It's like almost at 14,000 views, which for my little channel is bonkers.
Yeah, I'm looking at them. I'm going, that is a huge jump.
Yeah, I'm used to like in the 200 views. I mean, I'm small potato, so 14,000 is nutso to me. So, that one will always be a favorite of mine. Just
oh, for sure.
and we woke up one day and it's just like, should we do it? I don't know. Well,
Yeah.
And it's been great. So,
but have you seen the Tick Tick Boom video, the trailer yet?
No, that came out. My wife and I were at Disneyland.
Oh, okay.
We went to Avengers Campus. It was my big day. I've been planning for forever going to Avengers Camp. I was dressed up as Captain America. It was this whole thing.
Wow.
And so that came out, and then so it was a whole day later until I even saw that it was up. So I haven't watched the trailer yet, just in case I choose to do a reaction.
Yeah.
But I've been working on an In the Heights video that's been killing me. So I have not done Tick Tick Boom. I don't know if we'll see. Maybe I will. I don't know.
That's the thing. You never, right? It's whatever strikes your fancy. It's your channel.
Exactly.
You do whatever you want, right?
That's right.
That's the nice thing about it, running your own thing. You're like, if I don't want to do it, I don't have to do it.
Yeah, because it's my show and not yours. Do you watch Trixie and Katya? Do you know? Are you drag queen, drag race?
No, I don't watch those shows.
Oh, okay. All right. Never mind then.
I do watch the MCU though. I've watched that. So.
Oh yeah? Well, we can talk about that anytime.
Yeah, I just finished what is Falcon and he's called Falcon and the Snowman. I know that's wrong.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
That's it. I knew it's some kind of winter thing. I always forget.
Last night was episode 2 of Loki, so that was really exciting.
Yeah, I'm holding off on that till I get them all, and then I'll just drop them all at once. But yeah, but we went off in a tangent. But hey, do you think there'll ever be an MCU musical?
I did a video on dreamcasting the MCU on Broadway. That's probably my worst video that I've done. The worst doing video. So you won't get, I guess there's not a whole lot of MCU/Broadway fans like me, I guess. But I think so. I mean, they did. I saw Spider-Man many times on Broadway.
How was that? I know what that is. I'm so disappointed because I never got to see it because I couldn't get down to New York at that point. And unfortunately, we all know it'll never be put on again, though I have been wanting to do it as a community theater project.
That would be awesome. Something.
Yeah.
My wife, actually, that was her first show as a dresser. She worked backstage, and her mother as well was a dresser, my mother-in-law. So
that must have been insane. That must have been insane, dressing.
Was insane. So yeah, so there was many opening nights planned, and we get tickets, and then they'd cancel opening nights, but the party would still, everything would be booked. There was many fopening nights, we called them. So I was at several fopening nights of Spider-Man. So I saw 1.0 a few times, and I saw opening night of 2.0. It was a very interesting show. I mean, Julie Taymor does incredible things. Mm-hmm. So if you don't have, and at that point, I was not into Marvel. I came into Marvel very late. So I had no Spider-Man, and the mythology around Spider-Man didn't like hold a sacred place to me. So messing with it didn't really bother me like it did a lot of people. And she brought some really cool stuff to it. And it was a really interesting show, at least. I mean, it wasn't successful. It contained one of the craziest, worst numbers in musical theater history called Deeply Furious, which they all had. Anyway, there was this Spider-Woman number. Crazy. But when they changed it up for 2.0, it really just became sort of the first Tobey Maguire movie on stage. Oh. So while it was more cohesive, I guess, it wasn't as exciting to me as 1.0.
Yeah. It just sometimes going a little bit different and bonkers. It's not commercially, but it's more interesting to watch. The 1.0, right? Yeah,
but people take Spider-Man very serious. I mean, I guess if people did a Captain America musical now and really mess with his backstory, I guess I'd be pretty pissed too. So I get it.
True, but you know what? The comic book does that all the time. They mess with backstories and changes.
That's true.
And Morales is now Spider-Man, right? In a different universe. Yep. So, who knows? People, calm down, people. Just calm down.
It's just musical theater.
Exactly. So Marc, what is the channel again for the YouTube if people want to look it up there? What's it called?
It's again? Broadway by Ghostlight.
Okay, so they just put that into YouTube and they'll be able to find.
Yes, I'm working on BroadwayByGhostlight.com and getting a website, but right now it doesn't exist. So
just
if you're listening to this months later, maybe check. But
okay.
right now, just go to YouTube. Yeah, Broadway by Ghostlight. Also on Twitter, you can find me. I think I'm at bwayghostlight.
Yes, you are. That's where I think I found you. I can't remember how we found each other. Either I contacted you or you. I can't even remember anymore. But that's okay. I'm glad I did.
There you go. Me too.
Awesome. Well, Marc, thank you so much for coming on and introducing people to your channel. And let's get all your videos up to the same level as the Dear Evan Hansen trailer.
I would love that. That would be wonderful.
That would be fantastic. Now, before we go, I always ask my guests 3 questions. There's no right or wrong answer to any of these questions, though there is one that we will judge you on, depending on what you say. So, question number 1. Is there a creator or team within musical theater that has had an influence on you? No, this could be a composer, a lyricist, director, producer, dresser, stage manager even. It could be somebody famous or not famous, like a teacher. Is there anybody who's had an influence on you from musical theater?
Oh, man. Well, I did have a mentor in high school, Roy Diaz, who sort of developed my love for the history of musical theater. And he really, wanted me to know all aspects of the art if I was going to go into it. So he was definitely a big influence on me. And, I pride myself on, I'm happy that I love both classical musical theater and current musical theater. I think growing up in the children's theater world, I learned Rodgers and Hammerstein and all the classics first. Because Rent, was like, ooh, that's adult. We don't talk about Rent. And then getting into it in high school, exploring the then current world of musical theater. So I have a nice love of all genres and eras. So I'm fortunate in that way, I guess I'll say.
Nice. And I love when people mention, somebody like that, a teacher or somebody who influenced me. A lot of people say, oh, Sondheim or Lin-Manuel or whatever. I'm like, okay, great. But the unsung heroes of
the real people who, I wouldn't be who I am or where I am without him. So
it's fantastic. Well, that is a correct answer. One correct answer so far.
Yay!
1 out of 1. All right. Question number 2. When you moved to New York, was there any skills that the Muppets taught you that made life easier on Broadway and in New York in general?
Oh man, yeah. Well, I was used to the rats really off the bat.
Yeah.
I was really sad that they didn't have more rat waiters and things in New York. That was a bummer. They, I guess he just taught me to never give up.
Nice.
Just to keep going, and that's what I've done. It seemed after school you could either stay in New York and survive or go back home and do theater. That seemed to be the option.
Yeah.
Some people made it out. Some people are successful, and I went to school with some people who have done very well on Broadway. But for the most part, not so much. So
okay.
I don't know. That's a really weird answer to your question.
It's a really weird question. But as a side question, which Muppet do you relate to most in that movie? Fozzie
Bear.
Okay.
I've always loved Fozzie. I'm a Waka Waka, dad joke, puns, all day long. I remember my very first videotape I was ever given, young as a kid, is a video called "Hey, You're as Funny as Fozzie Bear."
What?
Fozzie Bear taught you how to tell jokes, and I feel like that was very influential on my life.
I gotta find that. That seems like a great video.
It's a VHS. I don't even know. I'd have to look it up. I wonder if it's on YouTube.
Yeah, you should check that. See if they have somebody copy it.
I should get into that.
That is awesome. That is 1.5 points for that answer. Now I have something.
I'm doing really well.
2.5 out of 2 points so far. All right. Third question. Most revealing about you. Food in the theater or cell phones in the theater? What is worse?
Oh, God. I mean, cell phones, of course, but food, yeah. Yeah. All of it. I've yelled at people, people like a little too far, where like the whole mez is like looking at me yelling at these kids.
Wow.
You know, it's all bad. Just
That is
I
the
mean,
correct
who?
answer.
It's all bad. Yeah,
Man. Yeah, I both are just awful, and I can't do it.
just like I mean, it's 2.5 hours max. Not even sometimes. Like you can live just silently, quiet,
Yeah.
sitting for that amount of time.
Yep, I know.
You don't need to eat or drink.
Think of all the people who watched Buddy Hackett and I had a ball. And they didn't have their cell phone. They missed some phone calls. They were
Sure
okay.
didn't.
They lived.
They lived. They saw Buddy Hackett. Oh my God, what a weird show that is. I had a ball.
I listened to it. I listened to it before I even knew about you because I had the LP and I put it into my station. So yeah, but you lose a lot just by listening to the LP.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's all very weird.
it is. Well, Marc, 3.5 points out of 3.
Woohoo!
You've done pretty much the best I've ever had.
Like that's the bank.
I have no prizes for you, but you get to lord over other people.
I'm cool with that.
Marc, thank you so much for coming on today and introducing people to Broadway by Ghostlight, the YouTube.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope, hopefully people will check it out and subscribe.
Awesome. All right. We were speaking with Marc Bonanni from Broadway by Ghostlight, the YouTube channel. Tune in next week as we'll be speaking with another guest or guests about their life, love, and passion. That is musical theater. I am your host, as always, Jean-Paul Jovanov. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.